The Worst Equestrian Necromancer, Chapter 2, 30 Years After Introduction. Celestia was giggling like a madmare. Her group of heroes had finally beaten Rhaegar's little challenges, but upon winning had found his private quarters empty, with the exception of 5 plaques marking them as the owners of Rhaegarland. To add to the enjoyment, Rhaegarland was actually directly under Candlelock Castle, within the Crystal Caverns. She had been laughing for an hour straight, unable to cope with the supposedly evil necromancer who had literally lived in her basement for 30 years building what turned out to be an amusement park. All the puzzles were just ways to get on the rides. In fact, shortly after her team solved it, Celestia found herself riding a wonderful Ferris wheel made of crystal. Of course, she had to disarm 3 auto-repairing tripwires before the door would open, but that was neither here nor there. The only disappointment was that she failed to meet Rhaegar himself. She had been looking forward to meeting whatever strange pony had gotten through rewards and built an entire crystal and bone-themed park under her castle. She refused to believe that they were whatever being was appearing in her room for what was now a weekly chat, but she enjoyed the over-the-top conversations that they shared. However, this day was one that required something rare. Today, she was gonna call them. She walked up to the orb and tapped her horn to it. This was followed by smooth music flowing from the orb. She assumed that it was sending a request to talk over whatever link the orb allowed between her and her strange friend. After a few seconds, there was an audible click, and with a telltale flash, she was staring at something odd. The skeletal figure was there, but instead of a cloak, he was in a fluffy pink bathrobe. He looked pleased, though. Celestia still hadn't figured out how he managed to convey emotion through his unmoving face, but she could always tell what the pony behind the mask was feeling. He waved at Celestia.
Hello, Princess. It is I, Rhaegar the Ageless, Dark Lord of all evil. How are you today?
Celestia smiled and returned the wave.
I find myself in high spirits today, Rhaegar. I must say I was sad to see that you left your lair when my guards finally beat your challenges.
Rhaegar nodded in understanding.
Oh, of course. Capturing the famed Necromancer would surely bring great morale to your pony army. However, what Master of Evil would be caught in his own lair? No, Rhaegar escaped through his tunnel as your heroes took the cart into his lair.
Celestia smiled. The roller coaster leading to his central chambers was great fun. Apparently her team had gone through it twice before realizing that they had won. She nodded at this.
Oh, but of course. How could I have ever thought to catch the notorious Rhaegar without a cunning plan?
He moved slightly, a coffee mug coming from somewhere that she couldn't see as he walked around. It was odd, seeing something walking while not moving. Then he sat, propping his feet up on an unseen object.
Indeed, Rhaegar's a clever foe. Do not worry, Princess, the next set of challenges will be ready but in 6 months. For my next will be twice as evil as the last.
Celestia nodded and tried to hide her joy. She had found that Rhaegar seemed to enjoy her acting like he was a serious threat. If she was being honest, she did too. It was a fun game to play.
I will assemble a new team of heroes post-haste.
Rhaegar raised his mug towards her.
See that you do. Also, Rhaegar must commend your librarian. The royal archives were sorted excellently. All the forbidden knowledge had its own section. Rhaegar was happily able to read all of it. Rhaegar left her a fruit basket in the visitor center. She also has a 2-year pass to Rhaegar's former lair. Please see that she knows.
Celestia paused. Had the pony truly seen all the forbidden books in her archives? No, it was impossible. The guards were patrolling all entrances every hour of the day. The pony behind this must be trying to act the part. However, that meant she must as well. But that didn't mean that she couldn't try to pester him about it.
Rhaegar, you are truly a vile cretin. How did you ever manage to sneak in?
Rhaegar seemed to beam with joy.
Rhaegar does not share his plans unwisely. However, you are a nice princess. Rhaegar simply walked through the door. Not one of your guard tried to stop me. In fact, most didn't seem to notice Rhaegar. Rhaegar was almost offended. But then when I saw your beautifully sorted forbidden lore, I forgave them instantly. No pony who saw those books could possibly be surprised by one such as me.
Celestia smiled wide. There was no way that he just walked through the door, so her secrets were definitely safe. Of course, their little game was still afoot.
Well then, I shall have to redouble my guard. They shouldn't have let you through so easily. Should I also change the hero team setup from last time?
Rhaegar shook his head, before sipping from the mug. The liquid went straight through the hole in his jaw and seemed to stop a few inches before his bathrobe. Celestia giggled at this, before quickly clamping it down. She was a serious ruler talking to a dangerous necromancer right now, after all. Rhaegar looked down, and seemed to convey a great sadness.
Rhaegar will never get used to that. The spells Rhaegar has devised make it so that the taste is fully experienced, but Rhaegar's form does not allow the digestion of various foods. Perhaps Rhaegar should devise a digestion spell, but then Rhaegar would need to design a bathroom. What self-respecting necromancer designs his own bathroom?
He threw his free hand in the air in annoyance, before calming down.
To answer your question though, keep the same types of adventurers. Rhaegar designs all of his lairs specifically for that style of team. Rhaegar also likes seeing how that particular type of team works. It's like watching a great play. In fact, Rhaegar has created a small viewing crystal to replay the greatest moments of the various sieges of Rhaegar's lair.
Celestia perked up at this.
Oh, really? May I have a copy?
Rhaegar nodded emphatically.
Of course, one of my undead servants shall deliver it to Rhaegar's former lair. It shall be upon the entry stone. Make sure it is checked early tomorrow morning. Also, please leave a small collection of adventure books. Rhaegar lost a few in the move, and Rhaegar's library is now barren of all adventures. Truly, 'tis the vilest fate Rhaegar has endured in Rhaegar's many years.
Celestia nodded, trying to hold in her fit of laughter. A necromancer who reads adventure books in his free time, whoever was behind this had a great sense of humor. Or a voracious love of adventure books. Either way, it somehow fit the over-the-top necromancer.
Of course, Rhaegar. I shall have a maid bring a few of my personal favorites to the entryway.
She decided to see if she could further his lore. After all, she wanted to remember this one well. Perhaps she could write a play about it in a few centuries.
Out of curiosity, Rhaegar, how old are you?
Rhaegar let out his own by now familiar laugh.
Yeah, Rhaegar's lived for centuries. Rhaegar saw Discord's reign. I saw the day the tribes united and elected their princesses. Rhaegar saw the death of Sombra. Actually, Rhaegar saw that one far too closely. A bit of his crystal body got jammed in Rhaegar's eye socket. Rhaegar spent a week trying to get it out. Rhaegar still hears Sombra in his dreams, that's why Rhaegar devised a way to avoid sleep altogether. Never again will Rhaegar sit through subpar tea time with a wannabe king.
Celestia had been about to prepare some tea, but ground to a halt at this. Every time she thought that he was full of hot air, he said something to set her on edge. Sure, true history nut might know all of these various facts, but most ponies let the past stay there. This one, though? How had a pony who seemingly loved construction and spellcraft found the time to research all about her past battles? True, he hadn't mentioned Luna, but still. She shook it off. Of course, a team of ponies, nothing to worry about.
I have rarely gotten to meet a being as old as you.
She then hid a private smile. Another attempt to catch him off guard then.
And of course I assume that you were there for the banishment of Grogar?
She began brewing her tea. No pony remembered that little tale. It was before unification and lost to the ages. She smiled at her perceived checkmate as her thoughts turned smug.
Let's see how you chew on that little puzzle.
Rhaegar responded though.
Oh, that old fool, he was an idiot! Rhaegar tried to show him the path of evil, but he wanted to use necromancy for pain. What fool thinks evil is a force of violence? Rhaegar thanks you, Celestia, for both you and your sister banishing him in the Shadow World.
Celestia froze. That was impossible. She had spent many moons making sure that that particular tale stayed buried. Even the knowledge that Grogar existed was restricted to her personal students, and of course, royalty. How another being could know it without being there was baffling. She sent her brain in overdrive, then let out a snort. With some woolly logic, she decided that it must have been passed down from a small group. If she missed a private family who happened to know of Grogar, then no harm done. Besides, from the venom in Rhaegar's voice, it was clear that he must hate Grogar as much as she did. Then she heard a yawn from Rhaegar.
Princess, if you excuse Rhaegar must now retreat to his phylactery. Rhaegar needs time to finish the new lair before your heroes arrive.
Celestia moved the now whistling teapot from the stove and poured the liquid ambrosia into a mug that proudly stated Sunflank in the large block lettering. She took a sip and nodded.
Of course, Rhaegar. I cannot wait for our weekly meeting on Tuesday. I do still wish that you would come over a spot of tea sometime. I'm always happy to hear from you.
Rhaegar moved a bowl into his lap and poured the last of his mug through his jaw. The drink spilled freely into the bowl, which caused another smile from Celestia. She was quickly losing composure again. Rhaegar seemed to ignore it, though.
Oh, of course, Princess. Rhaegar must gloat to the only worthy rival in all of Equestria. However, Rhaegar will decline your lovely invitation. Rhaegar has believed that you wouldn't arrest him on a social visit, but a necromancer must have standards. A princess tea party is much too frilly for Rhaegar the Ageless, undying master of the unknown.
Celestia nodded. At least he couldn't have actually gotten into the archives. Who knew what would happen if he found Star Swirl's unfinished spells? There was a slight cough behind her.
Oh, also Princess Rhaegar forgot. One of the books in the archives had incomplete spells in it. As a master of the unknown, Rhaegar just had to finish them. Unfortunately, Rhaegar finished them in the margins, so Rhaegar made a new copy with the corrected spells. It should still be in the Forbidden section. It is under R for Rhaegar.
There was a soft click as the communication ended, followed by a loud crash of Celestia dropping her mug. The guards outside Celestia's door were treated to a sight normally seen only during attacks on Candlelight itself. Celestia sprinting out of her room at what seemed like mock speed. One of the guards turned to the other. Hey, did Princess Celestia have curlers in her mane? The other guards stayed facing forward.
I didn't see nothing.
Both guards returned to their silent vigil. Then they heard something that was almost always heard only on the battlefield. Princess Celestia's royal Canterlot voice. It spouted several curse words that made every pony's ears within a 4.62 mile radius turn red by proximity alone. The second guard stayed facing forward.
Didn't hear nothing either.
Imagine having that kind of life, where you're kind of messing with someone, but not in a malicious way. Just, the stuff that he's doing is hilarious. I love this. Anywho, let's get on to our comedic donators. Top donators are 630, Peter Coulthard, J Tinman, Darkside, Only One Thing, and Twinkie. Rayden, Narwhals, Blackmoonheart, Pastel Skies, Austin Roland, Crazy Color 557, Stu Hex, Sword Brother and Mordred, Omicron Larray, Will, Chris, Dospo, Delta Omega, Jack Hadge, Runes Life 9852, Madman Sten, Leslie Prickett, Drake Lovedragon, Hunter Norman, Stephen Bingham, Line Guys 12, Sorcerer Constantine, Hot Zaza, Conver, and many more fantastic people. Thank you all so much for watching this video and live life to the fullest.